So it's really the for me it kind of has to do with the character completing whatever it was they needed to learn in that book. And so when they learn that, they the world shifts. You know, they're not in the same place they were when it started, and they're they have, well, I can kind of tell you, so like in this one, it was sort of this Pegasus, again, kind of against his herd. His herd was afraid of him because he's going to inherit this power. So the first book was really about him coming to terms with his own herd. And then, so that can happen in this one. But then in the second one, this is a greater enemy comes into the world. And so now it's the character against this greater enemy. And so now he's got allies. So he gained allies during the first book. You know, everybody was afraid of him, but he ended up, you know, proving himself in certain ways. He ended up getting allies. And then in this book, there's this greater threat comes to the whole community, all 5 herds. And so this is kind of the character against, now it's not just his herd, that it's his threat has gotten larger. And the new threat isn't just against him, but against all the Pegasi. So you kind of increase the stakes. But this one kind of ended, this one ends with him losing to the bad guy. So if you look at the 4-book arc, the end of the second one is the halfway point, and that's the all is lost moment where my character has failed, and the bad guy is there, and now he is my character is now facing an existential kind of crisis, right? And his world is now, he's lost. So in this book, this is really about my character against himself. So in this book, he really had to finally come to accept this power that he has and learn how to use it and not to run away from it anymore. So this is really my character. And so by the end of this book, he has accepted himself. So, and the overarching story, he's still battling this greater threat who ends up, there's a group of rebels, and he ends up capturing the rebels also. So things are bad at the end of this book, but my character now believes in himself and now has the tools to go toward the final battle, which is beautifully depicted on this cover, with the bad guy, which is another Pegasus, who has the same powers he has, but knows how to use them and is much more powerful. So then in the 4th book, it's sort of the character then defeating this overarching threat to the herds. And the whole reason they were afraid of him when he was little was because of this other Pegasus, because of this power that one of them used well and one of them did not. And so anyway, so then the overarching story resolves at the end of this book. And my character gets what he always wanted in the beginning, the very first like paragraph or chapter of this book. He wishes he was just a regular Pegasus like everybody else, because he's not even able to fly in the first book. He's born unable to fly, but he's going to have all this power, and he just wants to be like his friends. And by the end of this book, he has a symbolic death. He loses that power after he defeats the enemy. I'm giving away all the spoilers. And he becomes a regular Pegasus like he always wanted to be, just like his friends, and he can fly. So yeah, so anyway, so he, everything ties into the first one, and but each story also, as you can see, had its own issue that got resolved.
The one that I'm not quite clear on, because you said that for you, satisfaction is your character learning something at the end, and the world kind of shifting. So the second book, where he loses, what does he learn?
So in this one, it kind of, it's been a little while since I've read these too. So in this one, he's learning, this is the one where I would say it's the most transitional one, but at the end of the story, he's learning what this ancient, part of this is learning what the ancient threat is and having to come to face it. But what this one is mostly about is him learning how to lead. So that was basically what he had to do in this one. Before the enemy comes, he basically establishes kind of a democracy in the herd. So he there's like each herd has, there's 5 gigantic herds of thousands of pegasi, and each one has a leader who's like a dictator. And he, when a bunch of pegasi decide to follow him and he doesn't want to be a leader, he sets up a council, and he basically has to learn how to become a leader without being a dictator and without, you know, ordering people around. So this one's really about him establishing this council. He calls it a council, and learning how to lead these pegasi who follow him and believe in him in a way that's comfortable for him. And then and also he's learning about this ancient threat that has woken up and is coming back. So there is probably the most setup in this one, but he still by the end has set up the council. And then when the Pegasus comes, realizes that he is still, because he hasn't really, he's kind of afraid of his power, and he loses to the Pegasus. It sets up the seeds for having to accept himself in book 3. So yeah, this one, I mean, it does have a satisfying ending, but probably in the sense that he has grown and he's improved his world once again, but not enough to, you know, handle the overarching threat.
Right. So having talked about all these complexities, it's like, what was your process? Like, it sounds like you're more of a plotter than a pantser, obviously.
I'm a pantser. I'm a total pantser.
Yeah. So you didn't plot the books before you started writing them?
No. So and I don't recommend this necessarily, but I'm not a plotter. And so what I did is I wrote them fast is what I did. And so I would have, you know, the first one's, when you get your contract, the first one's already done and you're working on the second one by the time you get your contract. And I mean, for me, because the first one, well, I was waiting for edits, but I went ahead and started the second one because I knew I had 3. Well, my lead time for getting published on the first one was 22 months. It was the publication date. So by the time that one came out, I had the next 2 done. So I had 2 and 3 done when the first one was published. And then soon after that, I had the 4th one done. So I was able to edit them together, sort of as a group. So if I change, this is one of the cons about a series is that if once it publishes, you can't change it. So by writing them quickly, I was able to kind of move things around, edit them, and think about how everything was going to fit together. So that's how I did it. I needed to see everything. I'm just one of those people that I have to see it, I have to write it, and then I kind of massage it to work out. So if you don't write really fast, then you do have to plot all that out, or, you know, you have to have a really good idea of what's coming because you can't go back. And the deadlines are quick. So luckily I had that long lead time to get caught up and get ahead, because they wanted the books to come out they came out about every 7 months. So that's almost
not even a year, every 7 months.
Yeah. For middle grade, publishers they don't like a lot of time in between books because kids get older very quickly and then they age out. So they want them, you know, ideally twice a year. So, but luckily I got ahead of the game and I was able to keep up with that and have the manuscripts with me so I could change things in the past ones if I needed to.
Did you know that they were going, so when you signed the contract, did you know that it was going to be once every 7 months for the next 4 books?
Yeah, it was all in there. The dates, the publication dates for all the books were in there.
And did your agent forewarn you that it would be at that kind of pace?
No. She had never sold a series before, so it was new for her too. Yeah. So yeah, we had no idea, but luckily that 22-month lead time, because I signed in like January and the first one came out not that fall, but the fall, it was 22 months later that it was, or almost 22 months, October. Well, I knew, let's put it this way, I didn't sign in January. That's when they announced it. And I probably didn't even sign until March, but I had the offer on the table in, I think it was October. And so I went ahead and just started working on the second one.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, yeah, so it ended up being 22 months that I knew I had 4 books coming out.
So you kind of knew what pace you would have to be writing at, which sounds like blisteringly quick to me. And you said early on, you said to your agent, when your agent said, "Can you write a series?" You said, "Oh, I'm a writer. Of course I can write a series." I want to know how you wrote that series so fast. Have you always written that quickly? How long does your typical first draft take you?
So I strongly believe in sitting down every day until that first draft is done. I firmly believe in trying to get it done in one season of like weather-wise, like within 3 months, if not sooner. Because things changed. I don't know, a lot can change over, say, a year. And this is for the first draft. I just want to get it down because I'm not a plotter. So I like to trap it sort of on paper, and then I can play with it and mess with it and change it. So I try to write a chapter a day for, Monday through Friday. I tend to work Saturdays too. But if you do a chapter a day, and I think they have like 30 something chapters, within 30, and if you add in weekends, within 40, 45 days, I would have a draft. And I will tell you this too, that one of the pluses of a series is you already know the world and the characters, and it just comes like you're not recreating the wheel every time. So that's one of the pluses. So they do go quicker than coming up with a brand new standalone idea. So especially with fantasy, where there's so much world building. So that's a really huge plus. So I was able to just pick up, granted you're picking up the story where it left off, even though you're writing a whole new story arc. So it was fine. And the 22-month lead time gave me a lot of time to write those drafts. And then the books, that's just when the first one came out. The second one was 7 or 8 months later. They were all within 6 to 8 months kind of a time frame. So and that one I think was in production, but the other 2 were still over like a year out, for whatever, a year and a half. So I was still able to continue to polish and all that, but at least I had the draft down, which for me is like, that is my plotting, is to do the whole draft. Like that's how I plot. And then I see if it's working. And so it's sort of almost, it's not a total skeleton. It has world building. It has reflective moments. It has description, but it's just getting it down. So then I really flesh it out more. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you said 30 chapters. What kind of book length are we looking at? What kind of chapter length?
The first one was 53,000 words. But when I finished the manuscript, but we cut a little bit out of that one, and the rest were all about 60,000. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm right on about 30 chapters. But yeah, 35 in this one. But 60,000 words, and they actually wrote in the contract that they wanted the books to be around 60,000 words. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that a struggle for you at all? It sounds like you have a pretty professional attitude to things in terms of pace. So I'm imagining you can fashion your book length as well quite easily, or no?
Actually, the weird thing was they all came out around 60,000 just naturally. I don't know why. They just did. So the trilogy that came after was a little bit longer for other reasons, but no, it felt very natural to, I think because, when you read so many books, you just sort of, it's like when you watch a movie and you can tell when you're at the halfway point, even though you're not looking at your watch, which point you're at, or it's sort of like that with a book. You kind of, if you write by feel and you write fast, where you are in the book, and you can tell you're going to hit your word count. I don't know. I just kind of feel it out.